Hey guys, it's Alex. In lieu of my usual Sunday vlog, I decided to film a quick little book haul. My boyfriend moved earlier this summer, and when he did, he went through his books and sort of came up with a giant box that he no longer wanted to have, and he just let me go through them and take what I wanted. So I wound up with 11. It surprised him, but I'm sure it surprises no one else. Because I took them from him, they're very much his genres as well as mine, so all of these books are either classics or creative nonfiction, which I'm 100% down with, but I know not everyone is, which is why I labeled this haul specifically classics and creative nonfiction. The first 5 are classics, and I'll go through them first, and then the other 6 were various creative nonfiction books. The first book I grabbed from him was The Grapes of Wrath by John Steinbeck. I have Of Mice and Men and In Dubious Battle, neither of which I've read, so now I've added a third to my John Steinbeck collection. But I do want to read Steinbeck, and those were this is probably the main one that I want to read after Of Mice and Men, so I am quite pleased to have picked it up. I'm not sure when I'll get to it, probably not anytime really soon, but I do really want to read this at some point because I know it's one of those big classics that pretty much everyone has read. Next, I grabbed Paradise Lost by John Milton. I don't know if this is one that I will be reading. He bought it having the same pretty much thought as mine that, oh, it's Paradise Lost, I should read it, and never did. I think he got this book in high school, and it moved with him to college and post-college, and eventually he decided to get rid of it without ever reading it. So now I can have it without ever reading it. Honestly, the main reason I picked this up is because it is the really pretty Barnes & Noble Classics edition, and I love these. I have a couple, and I do like to add to my collection of those. And he was sitting there saying, oh no, take it, take more, take all of them. And I didn't take all of them, but he did talk me into this one. Next, I grabbed The House on Mango Street by Sandra Cisneros. This is a book set in Chicago about a Cuban immigrant, and it basically deals with her culture and living in America as a Cuban immigrant, I believe, or the daughter of Cuban immigrants. I know a lot of people really love this book. It might be more lit fic than classic, but it's still one that's been on my TBR for a while, and I feel like this is one I'll pick up pretty quickly since it's quite a short read, and I see a lot of love for it, even from people who don't read a lot of classics. And I got The Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde. This was my college roommate's favorite book of all time, and I've never read it or anything else by Oscar Wilde, so I'm really hoping that I will love it. My boyfriend didn't, which is why he was getting rid of it, but it's short, so even if I don't love it, it should be pretty quick to get through. And I feel like this is a fairly good introduction to Oscar Wilde, and I do want to give him sort of a try, so even if I don't wind up loving this, it won't take too much time to get through. And the final classic that I grabbed is Pale Fire by Vladimir Nabokov. I don't own any Nabokov, nor have I read him yet, but he's one that's been on my list for a very long time, and I keep trying to pick up Lolita and just not having either the time or the inclination to read it because he's such a difficult writer. Pale Fire is probably not where I would choose to start. This is quite an odd book. It's set around a poem written by a fictionalized poet and a critique by another writer who's also fictionalized, and there's sort of a narrative structured around that, and it sounds very strange, and I'm not very big on poetry, so this is a fiction novel, but it does sort of center around writers and critiquing of writing, and a 999 line poem that's included in this book that Nabokov has written all of this, but it sounds very odd and difficult, and Nabokov in general is kind of odd and difficult, so I don't know if I'll be starting with this one, but it is one that I really want to read, and I do want to own more of Nabokov, so I was quite happy to pick this one up. Now onto the creative nonfiction. The only one that I think is pretty well known is In Cold Blood by Truman Capote. I actually plan on starting this tomorrow. Dane Reeds is hosting a read-along for this book, and I probably wasn't planning to pick it up quite so soon, but this is true crime, and I really like a really good true crime novel, and my boyfriend said he really loved this book. He just got rid of it because he wasn't going to read it again, and he's a rational person who can get rid of books that he doesn't plan on reading again instead of just hoarding them. I really do want to read this, and this has actually been on my TBR for quite a while because I keep hearing amazing things, and it's supposed to be a really wonderful literary true crime novel. Or not novel, but true crime book. The next 5 are memoirs and collections of essays that aren't very well known, I don't think, outside of, like, unless you're really into creative nonfiction and kind of know the genre pretty well. For a lot of creative nonfiction, you sort of just have to read it and try it to see if you like that author. There's so much out there, and so much of it is, like, just small and, like, mixed in with regular nonfiction. And it's mostly author-based as well, so you have a difficult time, like, finding specific things. It's just, you have to try it as you can. And my boyfriend is a wonderful creative nonfiction writer, so I kind of, like, trust his judgment to an extent, and I do think a lot of these are books he picked up for school. And actually, the first 2 have been annotated by my boyfriend, so, like, that's gonna be fun to read and just, like, see what notes he took. The first is Refuge in the Natural History of Family and Place by Terry Tempest Williams. This is a book by a poet about her mother and her mother's cancer diagnosis, and it also ties in the surrounding setting and what's going on in the environment at that time, because Terry Tempest Williams is both a poet and a naturalist, so I feel like that's a very interesting way to tell a story, and it sounds like it could be quite beautiful. I do like trying creative nonfiction as written by poets because often their prose is incredibly beautiful. Next is This Boy's Life by Tobias Wolff. It's a memoir of his life. I read an essay by Tobias Wolff in one of my creative nonfiction courses in college, and I remember really enjoying it, even if I don't really remember much about it. It did stand out enough to me that I recognized his name, and I'm hoping this book will be really good. My boyfriend said he really enjoyed it, and this is a fairly famous one, I believe, because it is one that I recognized. The Boys of My Youth by Joanne Beard. I believe this is a series of essays about how the men in her life have changed as she goes through life, like they're a rotating door, but a lot of the women have stayed the same throughout the years, like her mother and her sisters and her friends and aunts. And it's a lot about feminism, and I really don't know much about this other than it sounds like it could be really interesting and really beautiful. The next book I'm not certain I'm going to enjoy all of or even most of, but it seemed very unique, and it is Neck Deep in Other Predicaments by Ander Monson. It uses non-literary forms to tell essays and the narratives of essays, which is really interesting, and sometimes it works really well, sometimes it doesn't. It just sort of depends on your taste. The one that really drew me in was that it said it used mathematical proofs to tell an essay, and in another one it told the essay using the Harvard outline form. And that's just really interesting to me. I'm not certain that I will love all of them, but I do think it'll be very interesting to read, and I do like trying essays like this. And the last book I got is Portrait Inside My Head by Philip Lopate. Again, hadn't heard of him, don't know anything about this book except that it's author focused, as many of these are, so this one didn't seem to have any real specific focus. It just talked a lot about how it was beautiful and literary and whatever, so I'm hoping that if I give it a try, I'll really like it. That's just sort of what you have to do with a lot of nonfiction, is just give it a try and see what you like. Those were the 11 books I picked up from my boyfriend. Let me know down below if you've read any of these, or if you're also participating in Dane's read-along of In Cold Blood. I'm really hoping that I'll like it. I think I will. It seems like the kind of thing that I'm just, of course, going to enjoy because it's so up my alley, and I'm really looking forward to starting that tomorrow. But thank you, as always, for watching and commenting if you got this far. I know these aren't very popular genres on BookTube all the time, but there are some genres that I really love. And next week I will be back with another of my Sunday vlogs, so until next time, bye guys!